जय झूलेलाल जय झूलेलाल ऐं सभिनीनि खे हरिओम नमस्ते। सिंधी हेरिटेज फाउंडेशन एंड श्री दयाल एन हरजाणी पेश पिया कनि संस्कार। संस्कार में फर्स्ट वी हैव टेकन 16 संस्कार ऐं उन खां पोइ वी स्टार्टेड ऑन द हेल्थ। अॼु हेल्थ जे मथां जेको सभिनीनि खां वॾे में वॾो सब्जेक्ट आहे डायबिटीज़ जे सॉल्यूशन जे लाइ अॼु असांजे विच में कुझु गेस्ट अचणा आहिनि ऐं हुन सां गॾु क्वेश्चन आंसर बि असांजा पैनल स्पीकर कंदा। त मां पहिरीं दादा दयाल एन हरजाणी साहिब खे इनवाइट कंदुसि कि हू अॼु असांजे गेस्ट जो इंट्रोडक्शन कराइनि। दादा दयाल एन हरजाणी साहिब, थैंक यू। अॼु जा असांजा गेस्ट आहिनि सैली सलील ऐं पैनल स्पीकर आहिनि विशाल वाधवाणी ऐं रश्मि वासुदेवन। वेलकम टू ऑल। दादा हरिओम।
Okay, I'll go ahead.
I request you to please
Yes.
introduce the guest.
Jai Jhulelal to all the viewers. I wish you all once again a happy new year. And today we have got a very interesting program ahead of us. And first, I would like to welcome Cheryl Salas. And I would like to introduce her first. She's a registered dietitian, certified diabetes educator, insulin pump specialist, certified sports nutritionist, low FOD MAP dietitian, certified onco-nutritionist, founder and director of Nurture Health Solution, and she has published a book recently which is called Diet and Diabetes Simplified. So we are going to look forward for a lot of answers today, which many of us are in a state of confusion or maybe some conflict. But before we start, I would also like to introduce our panel speaker, Vishal Wadhwani, who's an asset advisor of real estate. And he covers residential and commercial properties in Mumbai, Dubai, London, Greece, and Cyprus. Very exciting places, and I would recommend all of you to go through him to Cyprus. Even I'm planning to go to Cyprus through him. So he will be also asking few questions to. He's got a 25 years experience in this field, and he will be asking Cheryl some questions, and along with Rashmi Vasudev. Is she on or not? Is Rashmi coming or not?
She's coming in 5 minutes.
In
She's
5
joining in few minutes.
Okay, so I will start. Normally, it's become a tradition, Cheryl, that we start the show with a rendering of Kabir Sahib's couplet, which is from my book also, Kabir Speaks, which I've sent you the details.
Yes.
So I like to pick up, certain couplets depending on who is coming, and it just comes. So today I picked up on charity, which is very interesting and very heartwarming, to me at least. I'm sure the public also, the viewers will also appreciate that. It says, Chidi chooch bhar laye gayi. Chidi means the bird. Chidi chooch bhar laye gayi. Nadi ghatya na neer. Nadi ghatya na neer. Dhan दान दिए धन न घटई. दान दिए धन न घटई. कहे गए दास कबीर. So my translation is, in English, with a perfect English rhyme, with grain birds fills its beak. The river waters never deplete. Charity does not diminish wealth.
Good evening, sir.
Us incomplete. So this is the purport is that this couplet is a bit delicate to understand. Sahib is conveying that even though a little bird fills its beak with grains, the grains are never exhausted. In a similar fashion, even after being used by people, the river's flow is not reduced. So, in the same token, if you spend money or give money on charity, it has been promised to us that the wealth does not reduce. This is a firm message of Sahib. And with
That's such
this,
a sweet message.
I will
Beautiful
give you
message.
my dua, which I've written. This is it's funny. It says, "तन में लगी है भूख, पेट में फैली है हवा, मांगे दुआ खुदा से और वेद से अपनी दवा." सो आप है वेद और आप आपको आज समझाएंगे. So,
Thank you so
but there
much.
is one in English I've specially got it for you and for everybody else. It's a bit philosophical. It's from my book Romancing in the Soul. It says, everybody wants to be a somebody. Everybody wants to be a somebody. Nobody wants to be a nobody. But only those content to be a nobody can become somebody in the eyes of God. So,
Beautiful.
so with this we'll start. But today I want to introduce Rashmi Vasudevan. She's come a bit late. Now she's a pioneer in the education industry with 20 years of experience. She has served as headmistress
Thank you so
for
much.
schools in India, and she has been a principal of Netaji Subhash Chandra School in Pune. And she's also a proud part of the army fraternity. Her son is in the army. I think her husband also is there. And she's a proud mother of
Yes.
Etna, who is a very smart person and working as a journalist in a big NDTV, I think. Is it NDTV? Okay, so welcome,
Yes,
Rashmi.
sir. NDTV.
So we will start. Before I
Thank
start,
you, sir. Thank you so much.
before I let the mic in your hands, I have few questions in my mind to start with Cheryl. Cheryl, can you tell us about little bit about the the two different type of diabetes in layman's term, and what is the current situation in India, and what do you see the projection in that in its increment? So, can you tell all the viewers about this aspect?
At the outset, I'd like to thank you for inviting me. It's a pleasure being here. And I think this is the best way. Like you said, the more you give, the more you receive. And I think this
Exactly.
is the most important thing, and I believe that spreading awareness and knowledge, it should only go and spread, and, the right information should reach to the public. So I think it's a very good
That's true.
initiative on your part, and it's a pleasure being here. So to answer your question on the numbers, one is on type 1 and type 2. So we have different types of diabetes, but predominantly, if you look at, we have type 2 diabetes and type 1 diabetes
Okay.
and gestational diabetes, which is seen during pregnancy. Now, type 2 diabetes is what we see mostly in the adult population. So, we see a lot of, people who are, there could be risk factors. One is that we have a family history of diabetes. Just being Indians, we are thin fat people. So basically, we look thin, but we have a lot of body fat, which
Hmm.
actually causes a condition called as insulin resistance, which means that your body is producing insulin, but it's not being able to effectively use insulin. And as a result of which your blood glucose start,
Hmm.
elevating. Now
Hmm.
that is type 2 diabetes, and type 2 diabetes can be managed on first initially diet and exercise. And the faster it is diagnosed, the better it is, because then we can bring diabetes into remission.
This is you're talking diabetes one, right?
Diabetes 2. This is 2.
Two. Oh, you're starting with
Diabetes
two.
2. And then you can control it on medication, and long-standing diabetes then needs insulin, but it's not necessary that every person with type 2 diabetes will require insulin, because the body is still producing insulin. Type 1 diabetes is what we see in children. So it's predominantly seen in children. A very small population has type 1 diabetes compared to type 2 diabetes. Now, type 1 diabetes, the factory which produces insulin, which is your beta cells in the pancreas, they're no longer producing insulin. The body thinks of it as a foreign body and destroys it. So the body is not producing insulin, and these children need to be on insulin injections lifelong because that's their
Oh, I
savior.
see.
Yes. So again, here I want to just clarify a lot of people, because there's so much of promotion on, diabetes being reversed. And, there's
Hmm.
a lot of people claiming to reverse diabetes. While
Hmm.
it could be true in people with type 2 diabetes or pre-diabetes, again, you can't call it reversal. Is because if you do not follow the healthy lifestyle, you may reverse it now. But then in the next few years, if you go back to your old eating habits and lifestyle, you will get it back. So there's a re-reversal of diabetes. So a
Oh,
lot of people who are diagnosed as type 1, because they feel insulin is a villain, and they get scared of insulin, and therefore they will go looking for solutions, and then they land up to these people who are quacks promoting something which is not having any kind of a scientific base, and then land up in the ICU of a hospital with very high sugars requiring hospitalization. Now when we
so,
look at the numbers, yeah,
so
sorry.
sorry. Go ahead. Sorry, go ahead.
So when we're looking at the numbers, again, I think it's something that we really need to be concerned about, because India ranks second in the number of people with type 2 diabetes in the world. One is because of our large population, and
Hmm.
also because of the kind of lifestyle that we are leading today. So and the projection is that we are going to be, if we continue like this, the numbers are only going to go higher because we have a large number of population who's undiagnosed with diabetes. There's so many times that people get diagnosed only when they're posted for a surgery, or when they have to do their medicals for a medical insurance policy, or they're changing jobs. That's when they get to know that they have diabetes. Because type 2 diabetes, you could have diabetes for 10 years and not know, 5 years and not know. So
That way.
that is why today the recommendation is that you should check yourself for diabetes at least once a year, especially after the age of 35. So this is very, very important.
So let me understand from a layman's term, because even many people of us, we read about diabetes 1 and 2, but
Right.
it never seems to register in our mind the difference. So let me now recap this. So diabetes 1 means it is people are, is this congenital or
No,
normal?
it is an autoimmune condition where your own, your pancreas, the beta cells which produce insulin, are not working, and therefore you need to take insulin lifelong from outside.
So in number one, the pancreas is faulty and the beta cells are not functioning. Insulin is not being made, so the body does not have enough insulin to absorb the sugar.
Right.
Is it correct? In layman's term,
Correct.
we are going to talk, because
Absolutely correct.
if we talk
Absolutely
technical, then
correct.
people may not understand.
No,
So I
absolutely right.
have to simplify everything. So type 2 is something that pancreas are functioning. Is it? Beta cells are functioning.
Yes.
Insulin is being made. Then where is the problem? What
Because of,
happened?
there could be multiple reasons. One is that your beta cells are not functioning 100%. They could be functioning only 50. And you're putting load of 100%. So it's not able to cope up. That's one. Second is that the fat in the body, it's like, you have a door, you have a lock, and you have a keyhole. So insulin works like the key which opens the lock.
Hmm,
It goes
hmm,
and sits on the keyhole, opens the lock, and glucose enters in. Now, when
hmm.
the person puts on a lot of fat, he could look thin but have more body fat, especially around the abdominal area. And typically, if you see, people have a lot of fat deposits around the abdominal area, the belly fat. Now, that works like it's like putting a sellotape on your keyhole. So, you have your insulin, but you're not
Okay.
able to open the lock. So, that's the resistance which is created. And therefore,
So
the
let
glucose
me understand correctly now. Because we have too much fat in our body, the insulin is not being able to
being utilized.
do its work of absorbing the sugar, is it?
Yes, transporting the sugar into the cell.
Or converting the sugar into something
Yes.
else. So
It
it
is.
converts to glucose, right?
It's already converted into glucose. Insulin takes the glucose and transports it into the cell. Now, here it's not
Okay.
able to
So,
do that
so
job because it's
insulin
not utilized.
converts the sugar into glucose and takes it into the liver. Is this correct?
So, no. It's not. It's basically your glucose is in the blood. Once you eat, it gets metabolized. It becomes to glucose. So glucose is the end product. This glucose has to be transported into the cells.
Okay.
So
And to the
insulin does the
entire
job
body.
of
So
transporting.
the entire body of 8 trillion cells
Absolutely. So
needs
that is
glucose.
what is not happening properly. So there's a lot of glucose in the blood.
So there are certain areas which may not get the adequate amount of glucose.
Yes, but there's a lot of glucose in the blood, and glucose in the blood can lead to complications such as
Like
heart
what?
disease, your eye problems, your kidney problems. This is when it is not controlled. But diabetes, if controlled well with the
Does it have
effect of,
anything to do with cancer or no?
not really, I mean, but yes, obesity has a big link with cancer. So if you have obesity, it could lead to an excess sugar consumption. They say cancer cells feed on sugar. So, if the person has got this condition because of unhealthy eating, eating a lot of processed food, and typically, if you see today when we take dietary recalls, our food habits have really changed. You look at the snacks that people are eating, there's a lot of consumption
Yeah.
of high fat, high sugary foods, which itself puts the person at risk for lifestyle diseases. And cancer is one such lifestyle disease also.
So when you refer to lifestyle, you are basically emphasizing in the intake of food,
I
is it?
think it comes to everything, in totality. Today we're looking at everything. One is that it's your, right kind of a healthy, balanced diet, eating the right quality of nutrients. In the sense, when we're putting petrol in our car, we look for good quality petrol. We don't go and put kerosene in our car because you're worried that the engine will get spoiled. And similarly, the quality of food we are eating was, like, for example, you're eating whole wheat flour versus eating maida. Maida is purely refined flour. It doesn't give you any nutrition. And
Hmm.
therefore, whole wheat flour, which has got fiber, it's got all the essential nutrients, are far better. So one is definitely diet. Second is your exercise. I think when we again ask people about exercise, everybody has excuses. I cannot exercise and I do not exercise. So that's
That's
another
true.
big reason. Then
Yeah,
comes sleep, because and today in the COVID pandemic, we've seen that people are sleeping late, they're binging on Netflix, there's late night snacking, and the stress levels have gone up. So all of this together is
you're making me
predisposing
feel
us
guilty
to get
already.
diabetes.
You're talking about Netflix, you're making me feel guilty. But I exercise twice a day, so it's okay.
That's wonderful. So
Somebody is
that
asking,
is
does
good.
insulin create weakness in the body?
Not
We have,
really. In fact, it makes the person feel more better. When your glucose levels are high, you feel very tired, fatigued. You want to sleep the whole day. You're not energetic enough. And once
okay.
the person starts on insulin, he starts feeling better, more fresher, more energetic because the glucose is being utilized. And I just wanted to state one more thing, that when we talked about numbers, we are number one in type 1 diabetes in the world. The latest
Number one
IDF statistics, number one in the world, with
for
people with
diabetes.
type 1 diabetes, type 1. Type 2, we are number two. Type 1, we are number one. And
Oh, is
we
it?
see a lot of children. In fact, in the pandemic period, I have seen so many children, yes, type 1 diabetes, but a lot of children with type 2 diabetes, which was not seen in the past.
Why children are getting it? I mean, so
Because
because
again, the kind of lifestyle, I mean, you look at the lifestyle of children, we're seeing a lot of obese kids today because they could not go out to play, and they're sitting at home, eating all the unhealthy food because you can order everything on different e-commerce websites, a lot of these food delivery chains, as well as you're become addicts, gadget addicts. So you're all the day on your gadgets. There's no physical activity. Children are
so the
becoming obese, and
moral
as
of
a
the story to the children is get on your butt and go to the park and exercise.
absolutely, they have to exercise. And I think it's the parents' responsibility, because I feel we tell them, they won't listen to our advice. We have to be
But
good
we have
role
to do it with
models.
them. No, we have to set the
Absolutely.
example.
We have to set the example.
Okay, now before I pass on the show to Vishal to ask you a few questions, I just want to say after this question answer is over with the crisp answers and to the point, I want to discuss with you about the most important aspect is the vegetarian mock meat, because many of us are turning vegetarian and there seems to be a lot of contradiction in what type of veggie meat to eat and what is safe, what is not safe. So we'll conduct a little dialogue in a very layman's language. Vishal, would you like to start asking the
Yes,
question, please?
yes, sure,
Go
sure.
ahead, please,
So,
please.
so yeah, I will tell you about myself. I was like the way you explained. People don't keep on checking diabetes on a regular basis unless they have some problem. So yeah, in past 10 years, I'm 46 right now. So when I was 35 years old, I had a lot of uneasiness in the body, and I went and checked, did my routine tests. I came to know that I'm a diabetic. So it's been 11 years now, and it's really been not a very easy journey. That should have got good doctors, but still I'm not able to take care of myself as much I could have. So I had few questions over the period of my journey. What I think the other people also should know. First is that, is there any typical diabetic diet of anything of such sort?
I think that's a very good question. One is that if you came to me 22 years back, I would have said yes. That's when I started my
Okay.
practice. Because when we were taught in college, we were taught that the moment a person with diabetes comes to you, tell them to stop rice, stop potato, stop
Right.
banana, stop chiku, stop custard apple. So that, we used to
Right.
start our consultation also like that. We used to tell them, we used to give them a big list of what not to eat and a
Right.
very small list of what to eat. There was no variety,
Right.
and people never came back to us. They took that plan very disappointed, looking very dejected, went back home and never turned up for follow-ups. And their
Hmm.
blood glucose levels used to be high. But
Right.
today we realize that it is a family thing. We're seeing a lot of people in the family. So we have to create a healthy environment. And therefore, there is nothing called a diabetic diet. It's a healthy meal plan which everybody in the family eats. So, if we have a person coming to us for a consultation, we usually do not take another person from the same family unless they have a medical condition which requires that special
Right.
consultation. But otherwise, it is purely for the entire family to follow. Like I was saying, we're seeing kids. So, even the kids, even the person, even their parents. Because if you look at a woman, if she gets diabetes or if somebody in the family gets diabetes, she has to cook separately for her in-laws, separately for the husband, separately for the children, and then she's not able to manage herself and she has her condition. So it's about healthy eating in the entire family. It's a very balanced diet which has got the right amounts of carb, protein, fat, and fiber.
Where is Vishal gone? So I'll continue for Vishal. Vishal, are you there?
Some network issue, I guess. Yeah, I'm there. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, please ask your second question.
Sure. So the second question is that what do you think are, the carbohydrates which we consume as a diabetic person? So do you advise some specific content of carbohydrates with in vis-a-vis to the level of the sugar levels, or how
Yes,
to take? Because without carbohydrates, Indians can't survive. You need to eat chapati, you need
absolutely.
to eat rice. So what should be that right content of carbohydrates, or like on this part, if you can just throw some light.
Right. I think that's again another very interesting question. And today we are a carb loving country. We love our carbs. And if you look at all the surveys and all the data that has been generated, we Indians eat at least 65 to 70% of our calories coming from carbs. So it's predominantly carbs, unlike the other countries where protein, fat, carbs is not such a high, component of the diet. So we know that carbs get converted to glucose, and glucose is definitely in diabetes or in any condition, even obesity. So
Right.
therefore, the need is to moderate carbs. While
Okay.
going completely low carb or no carb is not something we suggest because it's not sustainable. Like you said, we like our rice, we like our rotis. If I tell you to completely stop eating carbs, maybe you'll do it for 1 week, you'll do it for 2 weeks, you'll do it for
Right.
a month. But then you'll
Right.
say, boss, I can't do it anymore. It's not sustainable.
True. True.
But
True.
when I do something which is moderation, and teach people on how to eat right, what is the right quality carbs, like when
Hmm.
you're choosing carbs also, there are healthy and there are unhealthy carbs. Like I said, whole wheat flour, millets, jawar, bajra hai, आपका
Right.
जो foxtail millet है, या फिर आप चावल भी खा रहे हैं, even if you're eating rice, then your unpolished rice or brown rice or red
Okay.
rice, choose that rather than white polished rice.
Right.
If you're having fruits, have a fruit instead of a fruit juice. Because when you're making a fruit juice, you're actually using 4 to 5 fruits. You're removing the entire fiber, and what you're getting is only the juice. You won't get satiety.
Correct.
But when you're eating a fruit, you're eating it in itself. That process of biting, chewing, the fiber, that will give you good satiety, and that will not even raise your blood glucose levels. So carb, where we are eating 65 to 70%, if we can bring it down to 45, 50%, then that's good.
Okay.
So that is why we follow the plate method, Make half your plate vegetables.
Mm-hmm.
1/4 of your plate should be protein and 1/4 of your plate should be carbs. हम लोग का क्या होता है? We first put the carbs in our plate. Rice we put first, and then little bit of vegetable, little bit of curry. So follow the ulta method.
Okay.
The carbs come last. So fill your plate with the rice or the chapati or everything last.
Okay. Got it.
So that will, and remember one thing which is very important, especially when you're talking to a population, which again, when it comes to potatoes, if you ask anybody what you ate, they'll say we ate roti and sabzi.
Correct.
And what is a sabzi? Aloo ki sabzi.
Correct.
Now, aloo is not a sabzi. Aloo is a starch. So that is counted in your carbs. So if you're looking at sabzi, all your green vegetables, your board vegetables are your vegetables, which are low in carbs. But whether it's potato, whether it is sweet potato, whether it is yam, whether it is, your elephant foot, all these are starchy foods and they have to be calculated as carbs.
Right. Great. So a great answer, and it solved most of my queries regarding carbohydrates. Secondly, there is one very interesting question which most of so many doctors say that you can replace the sugar, what normal sugar which we eat, with jaggery or maybe honey, because it's natural and it's not. But some doctors say no, sweet is sweet. Any form of sweet is a sweet. You can't say that it's. So if there are in the sweet shop, if you go, there are sweets available which are tagged sugar free, but when you eat it sweet. So is it a myth, or what is the truth behind it?
I think that's again a very, very good question. And you
Very
come
interesting
Diwali or
question.
come any festival, sorry.
Yeah.
Very interesting question.
Yeah, it is very interesting, and that is another. I think this the doctor who's saying that all sweet is the right doctor you're going to.
Yeah,
Any other
actually.
person who's saying otherwise, we have this mentality, again, that anything brown is supposed to be good for health.
Correct.
So whether it is jaggery, whether it is honey, whether it is ragi, whether it is anything brown bread, we think it is good for health.
Right.
But whether it is jaggery or it is honey, it is similar to sugar.
Right.
So it has the same calories, it has the same carbs.
Right.
And therefore, when people during Diwali, everybody wants to give healthy mithais, and they
Correct,
cost
correct.
also more. And because in our mind we think it is healthy, we'll eat it by the kilo.
Right. Correct.
And then the sugars are skyrocketing.
Correct.
And again, dry fruits, that's another thing. Because when we tell people with diabetes, we always say eat nuts. Nuts are very good in diabetes. But when we say nuts, the person thinks nuts is dry fruits. And that person will go and have kishmish, raisins, and dates, and anjeer, and then the sugars are again spiking up. So when we say nuts, it is almonds, walnuts, pistachios, and not dry fruits. So there is a difference between dry fruits and nuts. But to answer your question on jaggery and honey, similar carbs and similar calories. So you still need to use it in moderation.
Like sugar free, that sachets we get in a
Yes.
coffee shop which says sugar free, and
Correct.
people avoid that brown sugar or white sugar and they put the sugar free. That
Correct.
also I know. In fact, everybody knows that is really not good for health, but still people are using it left, right, and center. Secondly, like how you invest in shares or mutual funds, there is a disclaimer that it is subject to market risk or something like that. But when
And it's very fine print.
and in a sweet shop, if you go, they clearly write it is sugar free, and actually it has
Right.
sugar. But there is nobody to control this kind of misinformation which is spread in the market.
I think what you said about brown sugar is also the same. You go to a nice 5-star restaurant, they'll give you tea or coffee, and they'll give you sugar. They'll give you sugar free, and they'll give you brown sugar. And we don't take the sugar and we take the brown sugar, thinking brown sugar is healthy. But let me tell you, even that is a myth. Brown sugar is equal to white sugar. Same calories, same carbs. So again, that whole thing about being brown in color. not necessarily it is good. And sugar free in moderation is fine. But in certain conditions, certain sugar frees may not be good. For example, somebody who is pregnant, a small child, certain conditions we would say that certain sugar frees are not good for health. But in moderation, it is fine. But when they guzzle down these so-called diet drinks, which are loaded with, which could have a higher amount of sugar free, then that we would definitely be concerned about.
Right.
Vishal,
Yeah.
we'll give the floor to Rashmi now,
Sure. Sure.
and you say one or two questions later on.
Yeah.
Rashmi
Fine.
seems to be restless, a little restless, I can see. Rashmi, please go ahead with your question, please.
Yeah, thank you. Yes, thank you. Good evening, ma'am. My question to you is that should a person with diabetes eat every 2 hours? Like they say that, every 2 hours of interval person should eat. So what is the answer? Like,
I'm loving
should a
all the
person
questions
with
because this is all
diabetes?
that we get all the time. Everybody who has diabetes,
Yeah.
again, that's something that was in the past. We used to tell people with diabetes you have to eat. So typically any person with diabetes, and you'll see, when we take recalls, subah mein they will eat poha or
Right.
upma or dosa or idli or parathas, depending which part of the country they come from. Mid morning they feel ki diabetes se weakness hota hai. I feel very weak. That mental thing is there. I'm feeling weak. So they'll have a tall glass of either ragi porridge,
Okay.
or they will have oats porridge, or they will have some biscuits. Typically, sometimes people want biscuit with chai. Chai ke saath they want biscuit. Then lunch is again, as we said, very carb rich. Evening chai ke saath again they want to eat either some fried nashta, or they want to eat biscuits. And then dinner.
Right.
And then bedtime, I want to eat something sweet. So I'll go and check in the fridge because there'll be some sweet which is there. And then if you look at their sugars, they're constantly on the high side because they're constantly eating, constantly the sugars are high. So today, it's again not a one size fits all because we look at the prescription because certain people on certain types of insulin may need to eat every 2-3 hours. But not necessarily every person needs to eat 3 hours. So what we tell people is you eat a breakfast. And again, that whole thing about eating a heavy breakfast is a thing of a past because they eat very heavy breakfast and that is not required. So eat a moderate breakfast, which has got more protein, healthy fats, moderate carbs, good quality carbs. Mid morning could be, maybe a small fruit with some nuts, seasonal fruit. Lunch could be, again, eat a proper lunch, which has got either rotis or rice, unpolished or brown rice or red rice with your vegetable and, whatever, your dal or any protein source. Evening snack, they could eat something again low in carbs, which could be either makhana, because that's very popular today, foxnut. And again, make it at home because outside makhana is roasted with a lot of salt. So it's very high in sodium. Or it could be chana, like a simple thing like roasted chana with peanuts or chana chaat or something which is lower in carbs with more protein. Or if somebody is eating egg, then maybe egg, but nothing which is very high on carbs like biscuits or fried items. And then a light dinner, and dinner preferably at least 2 to 3 hours before bedtime. That is the perfect way. And this is completely a myth that you should eat every 2.5 hours, especially not foods which are higher in carbs.
Right. So we mean to say that breakfast should be the heaviest meal of the day. Is it
No,
like
not
that? Like we should have the heaviest.
There is no heaviest meal now in the day.
Okay.
Because we are anyways waking up, we
Right.
are only becoming heavier. We have a more amount of fat in our body, which is causing a lot of insulin resistance. So breakfast also should be moderate.
Right.
Your lunch should be moderate, and your dinner should be as far as possible light. But as I said, it's not a one size fits all. It depends on the kind of medication you are on because every individual is different. Every individual's prescription is different.
I want to interrupt in this,
All right.
Rashmi, just a minute. You're talking
Sure.
about eating all that. I mean, diabetes people should eat regularly, something like that, right?
She's
That is
asking whether they should eat every 2.5 hours.
sure. So my question is, we have been told that when your body is diseased, you should go into a fast. You should fast. So people having diabetes, do you recommend them to fast or no?
Again, it would be very individualized. I will look at the prescription, what kind of medication they are on, because there are certain medicines which can cause the blood glucose to go low if they've not eaten. For example, insulin or sulfonylurea, different kinds of drugs. So one is definitely you need to look at prescription. But having said that, we have a lot of people who are on certain, who are on lifestyle management alone, not on any medication, or they are on certain drugs which do not cause the blood glucose levels to go very low and hypoglycemia. Then they can do something called as intermittent fasting.
Yeah, I was coming to that. So it's okay for people.
They can do it,
to
but I
intermittent.
would always suggest that they consult a qualified dietitian or a doctor,
Yeah,
take his consent, and then do anything.
that's
Don't do
very
it because your neighbor is doing, or your friend is doing, or your neighbor,
yeah.
or somebody is telling you.
Especially nowadays, it has become such a myth or a mode that everybody who gets up from the wrong side of the bed makes a YouTube and becomes a quack doctor, and then they pass on illegitimate information, and people get carried away with that, and nobody knows whether she or he is authentic or not. So, but
Absolutely.
it plays up on the mind of the people who watch it. So we
Correct.
have to be very careful to tell people to go to a proper, authentic doctor, a sweet person like you.
Correct.
Thank you. I mean, this is very important because sometimes we have people landing up with a lot of
Exactly.
complications, and then that other person has only made quick money and then put up their hand saying that sorry, I
Correct.
can't help you now.
Anyway, floor to Rashmi. Rashmi, go ahead with your next question.
Right. So, yeah, ma'am, I would like to know, like, is diabetes reversible? Like, once you control it, and then again, it comes back or something like that. Like, what is
We've
the
already
process of
spoken
that?
about this, but I will tell you. Uh, there's a lot of claims on diabetes reversal today. So the first thing is that type 1 diabetes cannot be reversed. So somebody who's requiring insulin lifelong cannot reverse diabetes. Even type 2 diabetes, what the
All right.
evidence has shown is that you can reverse it if it is a newly diagnosed diabetes. Somebody who's just recently
All
diagnosed or
right.
somebody who's having pre-diabetes condition, that person, if he loses weight, and the weight loss should be around 15 kilos weight loss, because typically you'll see people who are obese having big bellies. So the first thing I would say is don't worry about standing on that weighing scale, because some people are very paranoid. They stand on that weighing scale 3 times a day and get stressed about it. So what you should do is inch loss is a better indicator for knowing that you're doing well. So use a simple measuring tape, check your waist circumference, check your inches. If you lose inches, your blouses fit you better, your trousers fit you better, your dresses fit you better. That itself is a good sign that you are doing well and you are on the right track. And the most important thing is losing weight around the abdominal area. That's first. Again, you can bring diabetes into remission, because you will have to continue this lifestyle for eternity till you are living.
Hmm.
So that's why I say follow
True.
any plan
True.
which has no expiry date.
Mhm.
If you follow anything which is short term, it will not last. So it should be sustainable and simple to follow.
Right.
Because initially you're very motivated, you'll say,
Right.
"Acha, I'll do this, I'll do that," and after you'll get fed up, you'll say, I cannot. Like today only I had one, patient. She went to some center for diabetes reversal, her levels came down, but she said I couldn't sustain it. I just couldn't, because my job is a full-time job. I can't sit and make those vegetable juices and do this, do that. I have to be in the kitchen all the time. It's not sustainable. And then she went back to her old habits. She didn't check her sugars for 2 years. And today her sugars are highly uncontrolled. So that's when she came to us and she
Oh,
said, I want
great.
something which is sustainable. So I always follow the KISS principle. Keep it simple and sustainable. Then that is a way to keep diabetes in control.
Okay. So, ma'am, one more thing, like these days we are consuming, like the sugar patients, they are consuming artificial sweeteners. So, is it safe to consume these artificial, because I give my husband sweetex and all in the morning once he take oats and all. So, is it safe to take these kind of sweeteners, or we should avoid
Actually,
it?
Mr. Vishal has already asked me this question, but just to answer you, that in moderation it is safe to use. So in moderation it is safe, but however it depends. There are certain sweeteners which are contraindicated in certain conditions, such as say pregnancy or in kidney disease or in children. I would say moderation if you can. Like, I'll tell you, my mother stopped sugar when I was 17. So I decided to give her company when I stopped sugar. And it's been so many years now that I don't have sugar, and now I don't like tea with sugar. I take it without sugar. So one is walk the talk, and it's a
Right.
habit forming. They say it takes 21 days to form a habit. So
Yeah,
initially we find it
it's true.
challenging, but
True.
afterwards it will become a habit. So you can, and definitely not sweets and all made of it, because then you end up eating a lot. People think that sugar free means calorie free. So if I'm buying sugar free biscuits or I'm buying sugar free cookies, remember it has got sugar free in it, but everything else is there. Maida is there. There is, all your other things are there. The high fat content is there, which is also not good for you.
I'll interrupt. So if somebody's got a sweet tooth, what does he do?
If he has diabetes, there are a lot of
Sir?
options. No, when he's saying if somebody has a sweet tooth, what can you do? So we give a lot of these healthy. You can make a date nut roll. You can just take a small date, and you get those batil dates or any date. You can make like a date nut roll. So nuts along with dates, or a good chana roll. So small amount just for that sweetness. Or you can take yogurt, or hung curd, and add some fresh fruit to it, freeze it, put some crushed nuts on top, and a nice parfait is ready. So that is something you can do.
Okay, Rashmi, you're on for the next
right.
question.
Yes, sir.
Any
I'll
more
just ask
Rashmi?
two more questions. Yeah. Yeah. Ma'am, can intermittent fasting be done by people with diabetes? Like, is it safe for them? Because it's a 5.2. I've read something about intermittent fasting, like 5 days they can eat and 2 days they can fast. Is it
Yeah. So
safe for diabetes patient?
there are different types of IF practiced. One is at 5-2, which
Yeah,
is
that's what I
you eat
read.
5 days everything, and 2 days you eat only once a day. That day I met somebody who's following the
Okay,
OMAD
the
diet,
fast.
which is popularized by the Twitter CEO.
Correct.
OMAD is one meal a day. You eat only
Correct.
once a day,
Mhm.
and remaining time you're fasting.
Okay.
But again, as I said, intermittent
Right.
fasting, we have to select the person. We have to look at what is the prescription, what type of medication the person is
What
on,
kind of
and
fruit?
what other
All right.
conditions that he has. Suppose he is somebody who needs more nutrition. For example, there are certain people whose nutritional requirements are high. Maybe I will not allow them to do intermittent fasting. But somebody else who's on a drug which does not cause the sugars to go very low, then he can do IF. And we've seen good results with IF, especially in
Okay.
obese people or overweight people. But like I mentioned earlier, you need to consult a qualified person who will do a proper thorough screening, do your blood test, and then tell you.
Okay,
Then
great.
do it. All right. And
Rashmi, you
ma'am,
have
which oil should we use?
I
your
think
Sir,
that's
last
the
sir, one
question.
more question.
Okay, go ahead.
Sir,
which oil.
which oil, ma'am, we should use for cooking? Like, which is
Absolutely.
healthier for the diabetes patient? Like, which cooking
I
oil
think
should
that's
we
again
use?
a very good question. I always tell people India is so diverse. North eats so differently to South, and West eats so differently to East. So use the oils which are locally, seasonally available there. Locally available. For example, North India uses mustard oil. So mustard oil is good. Western part of India, we use rice bran
Okay.
oil or groundnut oil. So use those oil. We do not
Correct.
use so much of the
All
sunflower or the
right.
safflower oil is because we eat a lot of cereals and pulses. So we get a lot of those nutrients which is there. Pure desi ghee can
All
be
right.
used. It is not to be used. It's not forbidden. So
Good
one
for.
teaspoon a day of pure desi ghee can be used. So suppose you're allowed 4 teaspoons of oil a day, and that 1 teaspoon of pure desi ghee. Again, lot of people I know people are
All
frying
right.
puris in olive oil because they get to know olive oil is very healthy. They are even telling chefs of five-star hotels कि हमारे शादी में use only olive oil. Now olive oil also you have different varieties. You get pomace, you get
Correct.
virgin, you get extra virgin. Extra virgin olive oil is a very low smoke oil. If you fry in it, it is not going to give you any good. It's in fact going to cause harm to you. So that is good for salad
Okay.
dressings or as a light stir fry, low flame. But anything which is high flame,
All
you
right.
cannot use extra virgin olive oil. You can use pomace or the light olive oil because that has got a higher smoke point. But I feel, Joe, which we are
Exactly.
grown up with, go back and see what your dadi nani were using. But don't use as much as they were using because remember, they worked very hard. They expended a lot of calories. Today, they are hardly moving. So that is why we need to use less.
All right.
So less is more in today's world.
Okay.
We should, as much as possible, they follow the 80-20 rule. Eat only till you're 80% full, and 20% keep your stomach a little empty. That is the way to. And use
All
nuts
right.
and seeds. Like almonds, walnuts. You get different kinds of seeds, like pumpkin seeds. Chia seeds are available today. Flax seeds are available. So all the different watermelon seeds, sunflower seeds. So when you're eating those fruits, dry those seeds, and then you can put it
Okay.
in a nice airtight container and use those. Have a nice trail mix. They taste very nice. Sesame seeds, तिल का जो seeds होते हैं, those are good for health.
Okay.
And can we give them almonds or cashews or walnuts and all? Can we give them this? Like
In
the
moderation is fine. See, remember they are high in calories, so you can't eat too much. Also, like some people have salted badam, salted
just
cashew nuts. So like एक मुट्ठी पर अगर हमने खाया एक बार दिन में, तो that is good, and that should be a good snack to have. Not with your alcohol in the
All
evening
right.
where you're having fried cashew nuts or salted cashew nuts, and that is not good.
Okay.
Correct.
So we'll
Okay.
come on to the next
Wow.
part. Rashmi, thank you very much. Vishal, you have any question?
Thank you,
before
sir.
I shift to the gear?
Yeah, I have two
You
quick
have any
questions.
remnant question?
Yeah, I have two quick questions.
One
The
question.
first one is every diabetic person is being advised to have Karela juice, jamun juice, or in the morning you get that packed containers on all the medical stores, where you know even in Patanjali stores you get like morning you eat. So the options which I have seen is amla juice, then you have Karela, then you have jamun, then you have jamun Karela mix. So how do they really help if you have in a warm water in the morning?
See, again, it is very individualized, but doesn't mean that if you take that you can stop your medication. I see a lot of people taking that because they think that anything which is ayurvedic or any of this herbal remedies is more safer and allopathic is dangerous. That is our mindset, but that is not true. So one is, if they're taking this, and if it I would prefer that if you're taking any kind of a juice, it should be freshly made and consumed. Anything which is kept, it loses its nutrients because it gets oxidized. So you lose your essential nutrients.
True.
Having said that, methi, we've got evidence. Methi is very good. So when you soak methi and you have that maybe before meals, it does help to keep the sugars under control. Then cinnamon powder. We've seen very good results with cinnamon powders. Freshly pounded cinnamon. You take a pinch of it and take that, also will help. It will also help you for your body fat. Amla is a very good source of vitamin C, so very rich antioxidant. And yes, even in diabetes, it works. So there are a lot of foods. So we say use kitchen as your pharmacy. So that is good. But don't gulp down glasses and glasses of Karela. Typically they'll do it before going to the doctor. Blood
Yeah.
test karna hai, to ye pura hafta I will keep drinking Karela
True.
juice.
True,
I know
true.
people who eat one Karela and then have a gulab jamun just thinking it is going to nullify their sugars. But that doesn't happen. So that is fine, but they should tell their doctor that I'm doing it, so that the doctor knows, okay, this is the amount of medicine maybe I need to reduce.
Good.
So that
Right,
way.
right.
Thank you.
Yes.
Vishal, any more?
Yeah, last question. Again, it's very important for me and maybe for other people. What about the intake of fruit? So there are so many fruits available in the market, and what time you should eat the fruit, and which fruit, and in what quantity? If you can just throw some light on these three aspects of fruits.
Thank you for asking that
This
very
is my
relevant
last question. Yeah.
very relevant question. One is that no fruit is a villain. Okay, so in the mango season, please eat the mango. But the problem is when we tell people to eat the mango, then they don't know how much to eat. One peti they finish off.
Right.
And then that mango is converted to Shrikhand, is converted to Amras, is converted to juice, it's converted to milkshake.
Correct.
Eat mango as a fruit, okay, and check your sugars. One is your sugar should be under good control. Check your sugars, have the mango, and always, even if you're having, and have it when you're more active. For example, I always tell people, if you're going down to play, like especially children who have diabetes, you're going down to play or you're going for your workout, at that time. And the best time to have fruit is in the morning time. Avoid having fruits after 4 5 o'clock. This is what Ayurveda also preaches. Naturopathy also, we preach the same thing, because the fruit is best assimilated and gives you the best health benefits in the morning. Avoid a cocktail of fruits. Do not mix fruits.
Okay.
Have one fruit and have seasonal fruit. For example, in the winters, you have oranges, you have strawberries, you have guavas. Have those fruits because they're rich in vitamin C. Come summers, have watery, water containing fruits. Muskmelon hai, watermelon hai.
Right.
Even mango is good. It prevents heartburn. It's very good for people with acidity. But again, how much to eat? So when we tell people about fruit, we tell them, जो आपके मुट्ठी में fit होता है, what fits your fist, is the size of fruit to eat.
Okay.
Do not eat fruit late in the night and don't eat fruit with food. People have that mango piece with food. Avoid
Correct,
that.
correct,
Have
correct,
it in between. So you have had your lunch. Evening, if you want, you can have the fruit with a handful of nuts. So that
Okay.
keeps a sustained release, and do not juice the fruit.
Right.
And no fruit is forbidden in diabetes. If your sugars are well controlled, you can eat all fruits in moderation. Again, too much of fruit is not good. I know people, especially very elite class, they will eat like a big, platter of fruits in the morning.
Correct,
That
correct,
is also not good because that can cause your uric acid to go up. It can cause your triglycerides to go up. So you still need to eat, even if it's healthy, in moderation.
correct.
According
Thank
to
you so much.
Ayurveda,
Thank you so much.
you should eat only one fruit at a time. And
Absolutely.
if
No,
you eat
no
food,
cocktail.
you should not have more than 4 varieties at one time.
Absolutely.
And this becomes our lifestyle. Because
And
we are
milkshake is not a good idea at all. A lot of people
what
have
food
banana
to take and
milkshake,
what
and
not to take, opposite foods. These also
that's
create.
not
I'm
good.
writing a book now on that. The timeless remedies,
This is
ancient remedies.
excellent.
So, which I'll share with you later on. But now the moral of the story is that you should be moderate in everything. My
And no
wife will love me for
milkshakes.
that.
No
She
milkshakes.
keeps on telling me be moderate, have everything in moderate, and that's the answer to life. So anyway,
Absolutely.
now we'll come to the most important topic. Now many people are becoming vegetarians, and for religious reasons, and for whatever reasons that they may have. But there is a growing trend now, and especially because of this mock meat or vegetarians substitute meat substitute that has come. But at the same time, they have certain ingredients like soya bean, which we are told is not very healthy and it's more fit for animals. So, what kind of categories of productions are available now? How do we choose which kind of vegetarian meat to eat? Can you guide
I
us
think
on?
that's again a very important point. And today we see even we are meat. In fact, today the person I consulted is following veganism, and veganism is becoming a way of life for many people today. And and it's not bad. Honestly, we have evidence to show that it does help to improve health. It helps to improve health complications, even if they have diabetes. And we've seen good results in terms of blood glucose control, cholesterol control, overall health and well-being. However, again, they should, if somebody is following veganism, should consult a qualified person. The reason being is that when you are on a vegan way of life, there are a lot of food groups that you exclude from your diet. For example, you will not have milk and milk products. You will not have non-vegetarian foods, which is okay. However, there could be nutritional deficiencies which could arise of this kind of a diet, like your B12 levels, because B12 is there in your milk and milk products and in your non-veg food. So vitamin B12 deficiency can happen. Calcium could, deficiency could happen. Iodine deficiency, in some cases, maybe iron and zinc. So therefore, when we are planning this person's diet, we have to supplement it through food with all these nutrients so that the person does not have any deficiencies. In fact, there was a very famous celebrity, I'm not going to name her, but she came out on social media and she actually said that, I'm vegan and I was eating a particular kind of a salt which was not iodized. And today I am having iodine deficiency. And that was a very good thing that she came out and told people. She used that platform to tell people because they are our biggest influencers. Today, you look, everybody is following Instagram and social media. So
But
again,
how do we uh, qualify which meat to eat? Because when we go to
that is
restaurants,
where I'm coming to. So that's
yeah,
what I'm
okay.
coming to. So basically, if you look at protein becomes a nutrient of concern. Already, we as Indians consume less protein because we are predominantly, vegetarian. Even non-vegetarians don't eat non-veg every day. So we have protein deficiency. So therefore, this mock meat has come into the picture, and basically it was, originated in Japan by Japanese Buddhist monks who, became vegans and followed the vegan way of life, and they wanted something which is similar texture and feel, and that's where mock meat. So mock meat is made from different products. It could be the jackfruit, peas, soya bean, which is all plant based. So they go through a process. It's basically going through a process, and they've also been supplemented. When it's available in the market, they are being supplemented with certain nutrients which could be deficient. So they are fortified. The right word is fortified. And today, even if you look at government bodies, we are all looking at fortification because vitamin D is a nutrient deficient in our country. So this is where fortification happens. And today you have a lot of brands. I'm not going to name brands, but there are a lot of brands which are available in the market. So look at it whether it has got FSSAI certification, and that tells you that this is a quality product. It has undergone all the regulatory checks, and it is approved. So you have a lot of them available in the form of nuggets or in the form of chunks and all that. And soya bean, I know a lot of people, especially in the Western world, because of the whole GMO thing, they're a little concerned about it. However, it's not such a big concern in our country, and it's good quality protein. So we do recommend, but again, for certain people with certain medical conditions, for example, hypothyroidism or certain conditions, I would restrict the amount of soya bean in the diet, or I would tell them to use more, use the ones which has undergone some kind of a treatment to destroy all the anti-nutritional properties in it. But otherwise, it is safe to consume.
So, what are the two types of manufacturing this mock meat? If
You
I may
have
call it.
different processes which are there, which are one is that the soya chunks and all which are available. So that is there. It goes through some process where they try and get that same texture like meat, and then it becomes something which is more beneficial for health. And that's how it is made. And today it's become a very big thing in our country. In fact, even there are celebrities who've launched their own mock meat brands, and it's available.
What about the cells that you take from the stem cell from the animal and then produce? There's another way of making
No, but that is not, then that will not be vegan, because then that is from an animal product. So that is not going to be vegan.
that's not.
Vegan is basically using it only from plant based foods. You're using plant based foods to make mock meat, which is basically vegan. For example, like I mentioned, jackfruit or peas or tofu, you have tempeh, you have different kinds of products that they are making. And tempeh, again, there is a lot of, today people are liking the taste of tempeh, and it is available today in our country as well.
But if you take from the stem cell and manufacture uh, meat from those cells, there is no question of slaughter or no question of
Right.
animal rights being, you know, disturbed. So, is it safe to take that? Is it okay to
It
take
could
it?
be safe to take, but I again think that somebody who's a vegan will not take anything which is from animal, and they may not consume it.
So, what would you tell the people in terms of when they want to switch into this vegetarian diet? Then these are actually artificial foods, right? They're vegetarian, but they're artificial, right?
Absolutely, but they are, again, if you look at all foods, I think it's we never eat really real food, right? Even something is cause it is being processed in a plant. Whether we are even looking at wheat, it is going through some form of processing. So I think again we have a little bit of a misconception about processed. But highly processed foods is something which we should be, like I said, let processing to a limit where it becomes totally refined and it doesn't give you any nutrition, then that is not good for us. But some amount of processing is maybe making the food more available, the nutrients more bioavailable to us, and that is important.
Okay. So now we have a question from the floor regarding kidney patient. Narayan, you want to ask that question?
Kidney transplant
Sir, I have
patient.
just
Yes. No.
Do you want to ask that question?
No. She has got the reply.
She got the reply.
Yes.
Okay, okay, that's great. So now the question is, there is something that keeps on bothering me, not bothering me or many people, when they talk about saturated fats, monofat, trans fat, and this fat. what what is really is the difference, and
I
how do you
think
categorize them? You know.
right. I think before I go to that question, another protein which is commonly available, especially if people are not wanting to take whey protein. Pea protein is becoming another very popular protein, and a
Which
lot
one?
of these athletes and all pea protein, PEA,
P.
and
PA.
people start, yeah, PEA, peas, protein from peas, because that also has got good protein bioavailability. So basically that is where they extract. And today you have pea protein powders which are available, and a lot of people who want to meet their nutritional requirement are consuming pea protein as well, and they're available as protein powders.
P like P.
So
That
this-
peas, right?
yeah, pea. Yes.
So
So
Sindhis
that
have a habit of taking peas and potato
so that is
with their
again
bhajis, so
which is
that's good.
so that is again becoming very popular in the vegan population, and that is again safe to consume.
So
So now coming.
how would you distinguish between vegetarianism and veganism? What are their features?
Okay, I think that's another good question. So basically, vegetarians are people who have milk and milk products. So they do milk and milk products. They don't eat non-vegetarian food. So they will not have egg or fish or chicken, anything which is a non-veg. So that milk and milk products is fine. Vegans are people who completely are off anything which is animal based, like even milk and milk products, they will not have. They are purely plant based. So they will eat everything which is more plant based. Some of them take it to another level where they don't even use these refined oils and all. They will use the natural, oil coming out from your seeds and condiments, and then make their food. So there are different levels, and basically they will use almond milk, or they would use oat milk, or they will use, nowadays you get rice milk. You get so many different kinds of milks also in the market. There's almond milk, coconut milk. You get coconut yogurt today, and it's becoming very popular even in our country. Like you go to a supermarket, it's not difficult to get these products. They could be priced a little higher, and today you have workshops where they teach people on how to make it at home, so that you know that it's authentic and genuine. So somebody who's having a this about soya, you can have almond milk. But again, very important is, you should, yeah, they do not use even honey. Vegans will not even use honey, because even that is something which is not vegan. I think it's a very good point what by Monica Gokul does. So even honey, I missed saying that. So vegetarians will have honey. So this is something that we should remember.
So vegans are more strict than vegetarians.
Absolutely, very strict. They will not have anything which is an animal source. They will not.
You think that people who follow the path of Jainism, they come into this category of
They are
veganism?
vegans. Yes, they are vegans, but they
Ma'am,
have
sorry to interrupt.
because they
Yeah,
will
go
not
ahead.
have fatty foods.
Yeah,
They
Vishal.
don't have onions
Yeah,
and
yeah.
garlic.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, sorry to interrupt, Jain. If I'm not wrong, I think Jains they drink milk or no? I think they drink milk.
Jains drink
Jainism.
milk. They drink
Yeah,
milk.
so it doesn't come
Yeah,
under
it's
It's
not
not
veganism.
animal.
called veganism.
Yeah.
But they will not have certain other foods. Like they will not have root vegetables. They will, again,
Yeah,
you
yeah,
have
I know.
different
Yeah,
people being
yeah, yeah,
very
correct,
strict. But yeah, Jains drink milk. In
correct.
fact, they will have milk. Yeah, so they're
So
not vegan.
Yeah.
you cannot categorize them either in vegetarian or
They are
veganism. They
different.
are
They're
a mixture
completely
of both.
different.
Vegetarian we can say, but limited vegetarians.
Yes.
Yeah, whatever. Things are getting more complicated
Correct,
nowadays.
No, it's
correct.
nice.
The
And there's a lot of
global,
science behind it. Huh? Whatever they do, there's a lot of
Yes,
science.
yes.
And today we're trying to study that kind of science, because there's so much of science behind each practice. Beat any religion. There is science behind it.
actually, there's so much of dearth of information that sometimes it is very confusing for many people.
Yes. So Jains
So
are not vegans. Jains are vegetarians with restrictions in terms of root vegetables and onions and garlic
Correct.
and all that, they would
Correct.
not have. Yeah.
Okay.
And in certain seasons, they will not have even vegetables, Paryushan time.
So you have
That's
any
correct.
take on should a person become vegetarian or a vegan? You have any take? Has anybody
I think
decided
it's a
which one is
very
better?
I think it's a very personal choice, and we have to respect each one's choice. So suppose, like I had recently a mother who got her son, he's only 15, and he decided to become vegan, and she was very concerned, and she wanted me to convince him not to be vegan. And I said, I can't do that because he's decided to become a vegan. He's seeing the health benefits. However, as a
Right.
qualified person, what I can do is help him chart out, design a plan for him, which will make sure that he doesn't have nutritional deficiencies. And that is how because if I force him to do something he doesn't want, he's not going to follow it. So I might as well do it under medical supervision in the right way, and then that's a good thing to do.
Well, Ayurveda says that you can drink milk in the night because that's the time the body creates enzymes. So, and some people, vegans, they discourage people of not drinking milk. But
Yeah, I think milk is always a very
right?
controversial topic. It's a very controversial topic.
Yeah, exactly. So
And
anyway,
that can be discussed on another platform, another day.
I
But
think
milk
what I'm
itself,
thinking, if you will be free for next time, then maybe we can have one more show because
sure.
we need to know about saturated fats and all those
Yeah.
things. So we
So
would like to
basically,
have,
when it comes to fat, again, you have different kinds of fats. So you have good fats and you have not so good fats. But
yeah,
even not so good fats in moderation can be consumed.
exactly. So I want to touch this subject in detail as to how it affects the sugar level, and I want to touch the subject of prevention better than cure aspect. So if I will speak to you after the show and see if we can make another show. So it continues, and people will appreciate your, sweet gestures and your explanations. I think we all enjoyed for you to be on the show, and I really thank you for
Exactly.
accepting our invitation.
Thank you so
And
much. My
I hope
pleasure.
to see you again
Thank you, sir.
next week. I'll call you tomorrow morning,
Yeah.
and then let's plan up for a nice show for next
Session.
time so
Sure.
people can come up with their questions, and we can give them more information, broader information, to change their lifestyle for the better. So what I'm seeing in India today,
Thank you, sir.
I say that this our country is becoming a pani puri, batara puri country. Everybody, every time I go, if this were taken away from their lives, half of them would become, I don't know, perilously suicidal, because there's so much of snacks available on this thing.
That has become the biggest concern. If
That
you look at
also
the
is
dinners,
carbohydrates. Right?
they say we eat light snacks, and that light snack is sandwich, bhel puri, pani puri, and how many
Exactly.
puris? 40 puris.
So those kind of foods are also detrimental. I want to ask you that next time.
Absolutely.
Okay, so Narayan, I think it's time for us to end the show.
Yeah.
I would
Yes.
like to thank Vishal and Rashmi for the show. And next time, let's see what
Thank you.
happens. And we'll have Cheryl, hopefully, next week on 21st. I want you to consider that, Cheryl, for next week. And then gets prepared on this subject of fats, especially on fats and any other associated topics which we can join together.
So maybe they can ask questions. We can keep it a session where they can just ask their questions, and we'll be happy to answer them.
Yeah, okay, then we will leave it open to the viewers to send us their questions. And Narayan, if we can get questions from the viewers all over the world, then we can
Definitely.
ask specific questions to Cheryl next week. Okay.
Definitely. No, sure. No
Okay,
problem.
Cheryl.
Right.
Thank you very
All
much.
right. Thank you so much. It
Thank
was a
you. Thank you so much.
pleasure, and happy
And I
Valentine's
will
Day.
request
Same to
Naranji
you.
to
Same to
say
you.
his prayer and end the show with a prayer. Naranji, please go ahead.
Thank you very much for nice and
Thank you, sir.
beautiful show on the health, and especially for the diabetic patients. In the last मां हर दफ़े वांगुरु हिकु नंढी प्रार्थना सां अॼु जो प्रोग्राम पूरो कंदसि। हे भगवान, हम सबको सुबुद्धि दो, शक्ति दो, निरोगता दो, अपना अपना कर्तव्य पालन करे सदा सुखी रहे। हे भगवान, हम सबको सुबुद्धि दो, शक्ति दो, निरोगता दो, अपना अपना कर्तव्य पालन करे सदा सुखी रहे। इसी के साथ आज
जय
का
झूलेलाल।
संस्कार का ये शो कंप्लीट करते हैं। जय झूलेलाल। फिर मिलेंगे
जय
नेक्स्ट वीक
झूलेलाल। Thank
you
एक नए
once
शो के
again,
साथ।
all of Cheryl, Vishal, and Rashmi.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so
to all.
much.
See you again.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Good night.
Good
Bye
night.
bye. Good night. Bye.
Good night. Thank you.